On today's show, what will it take for the LA Clippers to win the championship? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, been a Clipper fan for 20 years, been covering the team for 5 on my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, and 3 right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know every single time we post a video, and you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. All right, so in the last episode, I talked about what will hold us back from not winning the championship. What are the biggest question marks in terms of us winning the championship? But in this episode, due to a comment, we're going to talk about what it's going to take for us to win a championship. So I'm going to start with the maximization of our parts, a God mode Kawhi, and then Harden and Beal. But let's begin by saying the most obvious thing. We need luck. And a lot of the luck has not come our way when it comes to the history of the Clippers. And that has a large part due to, when I'm referencing luck, I mean injuries. Whether it be us staying healthy or another team getting hurt. Now, of course, in a perfect world, you want to win a championship with the other teams not getting hurt. But every single title run, damn near, in NBA history always involves some level of injury. The Boston Celtics in 2024 didn't play one healthy team besides the Dallas Mavericks in the finals. Last season, the Oklahoma City Thunder played against a Indiana Pacers team that lost Tyrese Halliburton in Game 7 to an injury. In 2023, the Denver Nuggets actually didn't really play anybody with major injuries. That was very unique that they didn't. In 2022, for the Warriors, Ja Morant got hurt, so I can just keep on going. The fact of the matter is, we're never the team that gets injury luck. We're always the team getting injured. The only time I can think of is that bubble series against the Mavs where Porzingis got hurt. But we're always the team getting screwed by injury, which, sucked that we lost this past season because we were healthy. So we need luck. That's obvious, right? But let's just assume we have luck and we have health and our guys are ready to go in the playoffs. What we need is total buy-in from everyone on the roster, right? You need everyone to be maximized in their role. And that a lot of times comes down to the coach. When you look at championship teams throughout NBA history, it's not necessarily everybody's best season. But if you look at the Thunder last year, because they're a younger team, that was basically everybody's career year. But for the Celtics, for example, right? It wasn't Drew Holiday's best season. It wasn't Porzingis' best season. But were they great in their role? Yes, I know Porzingis was hurt, but Drew Holiday was great in his role. He averaged a career high from the three-point line. Derek White, best season of his career up to that point. Peyton Pritchard, best season of his career up to that point. Now, of course, you can argue they surpassed it last season. Jason Tatum didn't necessarily have the best season of his career, but you would probably say yes if you combine it with the playoffs. Even though he kind of struggled in the playoffs, he did a lot of little things, switched 1 through 5, and created a bunch of good shots for them to win. So when you look at championship teams throughout all sports, and I haven't seen my Clippers win a championship, obviously, but I have seen my favorite baseball team, the Dodgers, win a championship last year, and everything went well in terms of the playoffs. Our starting pitching was great. Our hitting was clutch. Our bullpen was great. You look at when the Rams won the championship, that's my football team. We had, great performances from our receivers. Odell Beckham was huge. Our defensive line was big. Matt Stafford was huge. So, all these things got to go well. And then, my soccer team, Chelsea, when we won the championship, or we won the Premier League in 2017, everybody from Thibaut Courtois and goal to Diego Costa had a great season. So the guys that are playing in the rotation, they have to have great seasons in their roles, maximized. And that starts with the coach. But it also starts with the buy-in from the players. And with a team like this, Lawrence Frank talked about it, role awareness. Everybody needs to buy into their role. Now, Kawhi Leonard's role is being the #1 option, so we know he's going to buy into that. James Harden, he's going to buy into his role, which is the controller of our offense. The question is, will he sacrifice in game? You know what I'm saying? Will he allow other guys to get pick and roll reps, get touches? I don't see why not, because I think he doesn't want to get taxed like that. but it's something to pay attention to. Now, the person I have the biggest question mark over is not Chris Dunn. I don't think he's going to be unhappy with his role. Derrick Jones Jr., I don't see him being unhappy with his role. Brooke Lopez, I don't see him being unhappy with his role. Ivica Zubac won't complain ever. Nicholas Batum won't complain ever. The guys that I want to see sacrifice and really buy in that I'm a little nervous about, Bogey, Chris Paul, Bradley Beal. John Collins, I'm not nervous about either, really. But who knows? We don't really know his personality like that. John Collins is in a situation where I think he's going to be used a good amount, but we have a lot of depth. So we don't, maybe he's not going to get used as much as he thinks. There might be lineups where we need a point of attack guy out there where John Collins isn't closing games. Will he be okay with that? That's important. Bradley Beal, what if we don't defend well enough in starting lineups and then Ty wants to play Derek or Chris Dunn to end a game or in extended stretches and Beal doesn't get the minutes that he thinks? Will he buy into that? He is not getting $50 million a year anymore. And at times last season when he got moved to the bench, he was not happy. He kept saying, I'm a starter. I'm going to do whatever it takes, but I'm a starter. And you could see his body language wasn't great after that. So we need to buy in from him. And then, of course, CP3, right? This is probably the smallest role of his career. He's with his family. So he says he's happy. Will he buy in? Will there be any controversy? That matters. You don't want disharmony within a championship team. Like the only one I can think of in history is the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe, but they've put their differences aside in the moment to win. So we need total maximization of our talents from Ty Lue and total buy-in. Everybody needs to excel in their role, right? Everybody needs to excel in their role, which means we need Kawhi Leonard to have and everybody needs to have a great season. So that means we need Kawhi Leonard to have a great year. I'm thinking like at least 55 games or more, because then we get the chemistry with Kawhi as our best player. The problem was last year, we didn't have Kawhi for the majority of the season, so essentially we were like two different teams. We were the team with James Harden as our best player, and then the team with Kawhi as our best player. James Harden, I see another very good season in the cards for him. I have no doubts about his performances. If it's a Zubats, will he have another great season? I don't have much doubt, honestly. Maybe his numbers won't be as high because we have Brooke Lopez now, and we have all these other guys, but I still think he'll be great. Bradley Beal, how efficient, how good can he be in his role? Will he play defense at a high level, to a degree where he's not like a liability or hurting us? I think that's going to be very important. So we need Bradley Beal to be a solid defender. Ideally, if he can score more points than Harden, I don't think that's a necessity, but if he can average more points than Harden, that would make me feel really good about our chances of winning a title. So I think that could be something, right? And then John Collins, having a good season. I think that's very likely for him to have a good season. He's going to be getting tons of open shots around James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. And then off the bench, we still need Derrick Jones Jr. and Chris Dunn to be those point of attack guys. We still need Chris Paul to be solid in his role. We still need Brooke Lopez to be solid in his role. And I think he will be all those things. So if you're asking me, well, what are your doubts? I'd say the luck part is a huge doubt. And I'm interested to see the buy-in of, as I said, Bogey. There's a lot of guys I just named. Sometimes I even forget to mention him. Will he be bought in to what might be not nearly as big a role as last year? Right? I don't know. So it comes down to, with a championship team, you kind of need the best version of everyone in their role. And it starts with sacrifice. So sacrifice, luck, and the maximization of our talent, I think, will get us to the promised land. But to be more specific, coming up, going to talk about which player needs to go to a different level. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Day. FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions, so whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. When we're talking about the NFL, the leaders right now for the Super Bowl are three teams tied with plus 700 odds. The Eagles, the defending champs, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Buffalo Bills, followed by the Kansas City Chiefs. And in the playoffs, the safest bet right now is the Buffalo Bills at minus 800. As far as awards, Lamar Jackson is the favorite to win MVP right now. As far as the Defensive Player of the Year, Micah Parsons, Offensive Player of the Year, Saquon Barkley. Where can you find all these things? Well, FanDuel. Just visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. All right, so the Clippers finishing last season 50-32. We have a better team this year with a healthy Kawhi from day one, barring any setback. So hopefully we get an even better record, get a top 3 seed. I think, I don't know why I didn't say that. What will win the Clippers a championship? I know it's a regular season thing. Top 3 seed. Yes, the Pacers made the finals last year, but my rule still stood in place. It's not even a rule. It's just NBA history. Only 2 teams that finished below a 3 seed won the title. 1969 Celtics and 94-95 Rockets, both of which were defending champions. We need to be a top 3 seed, and I think this roster is the most equipped to be a top 3 seed since our roster when we got James Harden in 2024. But in my opinion, and I know we're kind of jumping the gun here because when we're talking about what can we do to win the title, we're talking about the playoffs, and that's months away. We're not even in preseason yet, not even in training camp yet. But the most obvious thing, besides the health and luck I talked about, and everybody getting the most out of their talent, is Kawhi Leonard being in God mode. Kawhi Leonard needs to be at an even higher level than last year. 25 points a game is not going to be good enough. He's probably going to have to average 27 to 30 points a game in every series. That's my prediction. That's the level we're going to need from him. And honestly, I'm not even obviously it can't be bad efficiency, but it doesn't have to be as efficient as last year. We just need more points, straight up, more volume, more shot attempts. And how does that come? I think with health, maybe he can move a little bit more off the ball, maybe more stuff with him coming off screens. And then when he gets the ball in isolation in the mid-range area, he's got to work quicker before the doubles come because they're going to send doubles. So we need him to work a little bit faster. Because in the playoffs, and we have better personnel to punish teams when they double, when they throw multiple bodies at him, when they load up. But we still want him to get his shots off. As far as getting by defenders and getting easier buckets, that's something that I've, kept an eye on with Kawhi the last couple of years. And I don't think he's getting any younger. So I don't know if he'll be able to do that. So it's just going to have to be a masterclass of shot making. Usually, his mid-range, his 3-ball, his contested shot making being at an all-time level or at a very high level. Free throws, he only got to the free throw line last year in the postseason 5 times a game, which, isn't much. I'm sorry, actually, no. In the postseason, Kawhi Leonard shot 1.5 free throws a game. That can't be right. Oh, that's 2023-24. Okay, yeah. It was 5 free throws a game. No, 4. Yeah, 5 free throws a game. So maybe we're going to have to get that number up to 6 or 7. I don't know if he can get that number up. He's not getting by guys the same way, but we just need an aggressive Kawhi. Someone that's also it's not just about working quickly off the catch and not taking as long and not dribbling as much. It's about the first quarter, we look to get Kawhi going in isolation. Not as much James Harden Zubats pick and roll, as good of an action as it is. We play through Kawhi. Because I've talked about this ad nauseum this offseason. James Harden averaged 4 more minutes per game with the ball in his hands in that series against Denver than Kawhi. 4 minutes. Not 4 minutes of just regular time, 4 minutes of running basketball NBA game time. That's a little bit too disproportionate, in my opinion. Yes, James Harden's our main ball handler, our floor general, but we need Kawhi Leonard to be at an apex version. And if you want to talk about, because, Kawhi Leonard led his team to a title one time, right? Toronto Raptors. Let's take a look at what he was averaging in those series, just so for reference, because people are like, 25 points is enough. He didn't get enough help. I'm afraid, in 2019, in the first round against the Magic, he averaged 28 points a game. 28, right? In the second round against the Sixers, he averaged 35 and 10 to go along with 4 assists and a steal. That's ridiculous. 35 points a game in 7 games. Then against the Bucks, he averaged 30, 29.8. Do you see what my point is? And then in the finals, just to end it off, 28 and a half. So every single series in 2019, he averaged more than last season against Denver. Good is not going to be good enough when we're talking about a championship. He needs to be excellent. He was good, in my opinion, in the playoffs last year, but good is not going to cut it. We need God mode. We need more performances like Game 2. That's the reality. That's the standard. And please, please don't be the types of fans that make other fans say, no wonder Clipper fans don't know what it's like to win a ring. Because that's what people always say. They're like, what do you know about winning a ring? You're a Clipper fan. It's like, dude, I watch teams that win rings. It's not like just because I'm a fan of a team that hasn't won, I don't know what it takes. But sometimes I feel like a lot of Clipper fans don't understand what it takes. Because you make comments like that performance by Kawhi in the first round is going to be good enough to win it all. Yes, if he had gotten more shot-making help from his role players, we could have maybe beaten Denver, but Denver was not OKC. Now, some people would say, well, we only lost in a Game 7 to Denver, and they lost in a Game 7 to OKC. Matchups matter. Our matchup with OKC is not as good as Denver's because they don't have an answer for Jokic, whereas they have great bodies to throw at Kawhi and Harden with Caruso, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, and Cason Wallace. So it's not guaranteed that just because we only lost in a Game 7 to Denver that we would have competed against OKC very well. It's not. The playoffs in the NBA are about matchups. We're going to need God mode from Kawhi, which means more shot attempts than, let's see how many he averaged in the series. I believe it was 15 or 16. Oh, actually it was 18. We're going to need 20. We're going to need 20. I don't think there's any reason why Kawhi shouldn't be averaging 20 shot attempts. Seriously. For reference, let's see what he averaged in. Oh, man. They don't give me the averages on Basketball Reference. But you know what? I can look up 2019 Raptors averages and we'll see. Let's take a look just for reference. Let's see. 2019 Toronto Raptors postseason Kawhi Leonard averaged 21 shots a game. So there you go. The proof is in the pudding. 3 extra shots per game and 4 more free throws a game. So for those that are thinking, just because he was efficient, he looked good, he was the same as that Toronto Kawhi, the stats are there for you. If you don't believe the eye test that I'm, spewing, the stats are right there. We're going to need more. That's just the reality. Kawhi Leonard looked like a top 10 player in the playoffs last year. We need top 5. Do I think he can do it? I truly don't know. I'm not going to say yes or no. In terms of winning a championship, I don't know about his body. The performance I actually have more confidence in than his body. I think he can perform at a level for a series at least that I'm talking about. Like he can shoot 20, 21 shots a game. If he has a full regular season healthy, I think he can be a 20 shot attempt guy and average 28 points in a series. I definitely think he can. It's just, can he do it for 4 straight series? That's the question mark. And I talked about that in the last episode. But coming up, I'm going to be speaking about 2 guys that need to get over some of their demons. And I'm pretty sure you know exactly where I'm going. All right, so talking about what the Clippers need to win a championship. Actually, there's 3 guys that might have to get over some demons. One of them is Chris Paul. CP3 had a lot of good postseasons for us. Obviously they didn't result in a conference finals appearance, unfortunately. But if you want to look at that Utah series in 2017 where he averaged 25 points a game and tell me that was his fault that we lost because he wasn't good in the second half of Game 7, I think you're being extremely harsh. When Blake Griffin went down, that series was pretty much over. I don't know how he even got it to Game 7. Really, it was the brilliance of Chris Paul. So, he's not that guy anymore. So I don't think Chris Paul in any way is going to be the reason we fall short, I've never heard a team lose, not win a championship because their backup point guard wasn't good enough. Like this does not, their bench might not have been good enough, but just one singular guy off the bench that wasn't good enough. No, although like the Suns, for example. No, see, like I want to talk about, I was going to say the 2021 Suns partially lost because they had no backup center for Ayton when he got in foul trouble, but like that would be excusing that Chris Paul had some rough games in that series. That would be excusing that Devin Booker, who actually had a pretty good series. Like, it's just certain games in series just matter more than others. Not every game is created the same. So the stats make it look like Booker and Chris Paul were fine in that series. But when you actually watch the games, I don't think Chris Paul was good enough after games 1 and 2. I don't in that 2021 finals. But it doesn't matter. We're happy Phoenix lost. So Chris Paul, let's just remove him. Bradley Beal. I'm going to do an episode on him next. And I said I was going to do that last, but I like the suggestion from the commenter saying, what can we do to win the championship on a more positive note? We need Bradley Beal to be like, not necessarily a star, but like star caliber in the playoffs, in my opinion, if we want to win it all. I know he's like our fourth best player, and I trust Zoo. Like, I really trust Zoo. That's why I'm not harping on him too much. But we need like a good 18 points a game on efficient shooting and solid defense from Beal. Maybe even 20. And then Harden will average like 17, 18. It would be nice to have less of a reliance on James Harden. That would be nice in terms of scoring. Last season in the playoffs, he averaged 19 points a game. So let's say Harden's averaging 19 points a game. Beal giving us 20, that would be big time. And Bradley Beal's never gotten past the second round. He actually hasn't even won a playoff series since 2017. Almost 10 years. And partially that's because of the teams he's been on. But we haven't seen Bradley Beal really perform in the playoffs since like 2018, maybe, when they lost in 6 games to the Raptors. So we need to see some from Beal. We need to see him prove to everybody, this is a winning player again. Because he's kind of garnered the reputation of a little bit of like, I don't want to use the word loser because I don't like referring to NBA players like that, but a guy that doesn't necessarily help you win games like a player of his talent should. And I think that comes from his role, his approach to every game from an effort perspective and a buy-in perspective. So we'll see. I mean, he said it himself. I came here to win a ring. So we need to see buy-in. Then there's the obvious elephant in the room. James Harden getting over some of his playoff woes. I think having more shooting this season is going to help him because if teams take the ball out of his hands, hopefully he's not going to have a PJ Tucker in 2023 in the corner. Or, in 2024, you don't even have to talk about that because we didn't have Kawhi. But like last year, he's kicking the ball out to Bogey and Norm and Chris Dunn and Derek Jones. And these guys aren't making their threes. Hopefully those shots are going to the likes of John Collins, Bradley Beal, Brook Lopez this year, and they'll knock him down. So for Harden, it's partially on the help, but also for him to just perform in like, I wouldn't say a big game because he was great in game 6, but like in a closeout game, a game that we're supposed to close out. It's honestly like, I don't even need to big brain it all because I don't think Harden's going to change. Like, I don't think he's going to play. Of course, I could say, yeah, I want him to play a little bit better defense. I want him to move off the ball a little bit more. I want him to be a more willing catch and shoot 3 guy, but I just don't think he's going to change his stripes in year 17. I think it's just about being the better version of himself, which is less ball dominance to, have a little bit more energy throughout the regular season. So then in the playoffs, he's more well rested and then just performing at his best in an elimination game. That's it. The thing about players is when you evaluate them on an all-time scale, you can go through the skill set stuff, right? But it's about, are you maximizing your own skill set in big moments against high-level comp? That's why I do think rings matter when it comes to comparing all-time greats. I don't mean that, people always use that silly straw man of, oh, well, that means Robert Horry's better than James Harden because he has 7 rings to 0. Like, no, your role on those teams matter, of course. And I think the eye test is still the most important thing. When you're comparing a guy, though, like Harden, who's better at some things than someone like Dwayne Wade, my eye test tells me Dwayne Wade's definitely better than him. But the rings do reflect these characteristics, these traits, in my opinion, in that debate, right? So James Harden, in terms of showing everybody he's a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest players to ever play the game, he's got nothing to prove. To silence the critics, to go to a different level in the eyes of the masses, including even me, a ring would do a lot for his legacy, especially because he's still a very good player. He's still an all-star caliber player, all NBA caliber player. I think even Harden fans would admit that James Harden needs to be better for him to win a ring. You know what I'm saying? It's not like he wasn't great last season, but it's the same thing I said about Kawhi. Good is not going to cut it. You need excellence. So our stars. And then, of course, there's Ty Lue. Ty Lue making the right decisions, but I kind of mentioned that in the first segment. Ty Lue maximizing. I mean, I think Ty Lue is going to do a good job of keeping everybody bought in. It's just about now putting guys in the position to succeed at the highest level, which is rotation decisions and minute distribution and lineups. Are we going to be too offensive minded? That is very important. You need a coach to nail that kind of stuff when it comes to winning a ring. So it's tough. A lot of things have to go well to win titles in sports. Almost everything needs to. So luck, buy-in from the team, the maximization of everyone in their role, God mode Kawhi, and then Bradley Beal and James Harden proving to everyone that they are not guys that you can't win championships with by performing at their best when it counts. Those are my opinions of how we can try to get to the promised land and get that first title. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dime Dropper Pod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper and LA sports content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know every single time we post a video, and listen wherever you get your podcasts. Let's get up to 8,000 subscribers before the season starts. That is the goal. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.